when he was stuck creatively. He would come into the room, in my room in the house, and he would say, "Has anything interesting happened to you lately?" So I knew he was stuck. He was looking for something to do. But I grew up.
Long before the cameras rolled, long before the laugh track trained audiences were to react, something cold had already settled between Carroll O'Connor and Rob Reiner. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, deliberate, and unmistakable. A tension that didn't belong to the script and couldn't be laughed away. To the public, they were the perfect contrast. The bigoted father-in-law and the idealistic son-in-law locked in verbal combat every week on All in the Family. Their arguments felt sharp, dangerous, alive. That was no accident. What viewers never saw was how little of that conflict was acting. The pauses were real. The glares were real. The resentment didn't end when the scene did. By the time the show became a cultural phenomenon, the damage was already done. The hostility had hardened into something permanent, something personal. What unfolded over the next 7 years was not a creative disagreement, not a clash of generations, but a slow-burning feud fueled by pride, ideology, and a fundamental disagreement about what art was supposed to do. One man believed television should provoke thought. The other believed it should deliver judgment. And once that line was crossed, it was never uncrossed. Two men, one set, two philosophies. When Carroll O'Connor arrived on the set of All in the Family in January 1971, he came as a veteran. Decades on stage and screen had shaped his understanding of performance into something exacting and deliberate. For O'Connor, acting was discipline. Every pause mattered. Every word carried intention. Nothing was casual. Characters were not slogans or symbols to be wielded. They were people, flawed, contradictory, and deeply recognizable. The power of performance, he believed, came from restraint, not correction. O'Connor believed the actor's responsibility was interpretation, not instruction. His job was not to tell the audience what to think, but to make them feel something honest enough that they would confront their own conclusions. He trusted complexity. He trusted discomfort. And he trusted the audience to sit with both. Rob Reiner entered the show from a very different place. Younger, politically outspoken, and shaped by the moral urgency of the 1960s, Reiner did not see All in the Family as neutral ground. To him, the series was more than entertainment. It was a cultural weapon. His character, Michael Meathead Stivic, was not simply Archie Bunker's son-in-law. He was designed as a rebuttal, a moral counterweight, a voice meant to challenge, expose, and correct in real time. Where O'Connor saw complexity, Reiner saw responsibility. Where O'Connor believed ambiguity created power, Reiner believed ambiguity excused harm. That difference was not philosophical. It was practical. And it surfaced immediately, spoken into rehearsals, pressed into performances, and embedded into every moment they shared a scene. The first line that was crossed. Early rehearsals revealed the fracture. It wasn't subtle, and it wasn't slow. It announced itself in moments that disrupted the natural rhythm of the room. Rob Reiner did not wait for direction. He interrupted table reads. He questioned line deliveries. He challenged the framing of scenes, arguing that Archie needed to be clearly wrong, not layered, not humanized. He wanted no doubt left in the audience's mind. Every exchange needed a verdict. Every scene needed a winner. To Carroll O'Connor, this was not collaboration. It was confrontation. He noticed it immediately. Reiner was not debating the character. He was debating the meaning. He was pressing the script toward moral conclusions rather than human moments. And worse, he was doing it publicly, in front of cast and crew, collapsing the boundary between rehearsal and argument. Each interruption shifted the balance of the room, challenging not just the scene, but the authority behind it. More than once, rehearsals stalled as Reiner argued that scenes softened Archie's bigotry too much. O'Connor listened. He absorbed every word. Then he stopped. Mid-rehearsal, he would fall silent. He would stare at Reiner. He would refuse to continue until the room settled. The air would thicken. Crew members avoided eye contact. No one spoke. No shouting. No insults. Just authority. The message was unmistakable. You do not run this set. From that moment on, something hardened between them. Not anger, but resolve. And once that resolve took shape, it never loosened. When character became judgment, Carroll O'Connor believed in separation. The character was not the man. Archie Bunker was not Carroll O'Connor. The role was a vessel, not a confession. Once the cameras stopped, the character ended. That boundary was sacred to him. It protected the craft. It protected the actor. Without it, performance collapsed into accusation. Rob Reiner did not maintain that boundary. In O'Connor's mind, Reiner blurred it completely. He did not just argue with Archie Bunker. He argued at Carroll O'Connor. The criticism no longer felt theatrical. It felt personal. The moral pressure felt aimed, not abstract. The line between performance and judgment disappeared, and once it vanished, O'Connor felt exposed. What had once been debate now felt like evaluation. Later, O'Connor would describe it simply. Reiner did not act like a fellow performer. He acted like a judge. That distinction mattered more than anything else. O'Connor could tolerate disagreement. He had built a career on it. What he could not tolerate was being measured, corrected, or morally weighed by someone he believed did not respect the discipline behind the work. To him, Reiner wasn't engaging the craft. He was standing above it. For Reiner, the stakes felt entirely different. He saw Archie as dangerous if misunderstood. He believed audiences might laugh with him instead of at him, absorbing prejudice instead of questioning it. To Reiner, softening Archie meant enabling him. Ambiguity was not nuance. It was risk. Each man believed he was protecting the integrity of the show. Each believed the other was quietly destroying it. 7 years of controlled hostility. As All in the Family exploded into the most-watched sitcom in America, the tension intensified rather than softened. Success did not dilute the conflict. It amplified it. With every ratings victory, the ideological divide felt heavier, more entrenched, more personal. What had once been contained to rehearsals now lingered everywhere. Norman Lear began to realize that the ideological conflict at the heart of the show did not stop at the script. It followed the actors onto the soundstage, into rehearsals, and into moments where production itself stalled. The arguments were no longer theoretical. They affected timing, blocking, authority. Jean Stapleton, who played Edith Bunker, noticed it immediately. She didn't hear shouting. She saw behavior. When Reiner spoke off script, O'Connor would physically withdraw. He would lean back, fold his arms, break eye contact. These were not accidents. They were deliberate. These were acts of resistance, performed as clearly as any line of dialogue. O'Connor was freezing Reiner out in plain sight. Reiner did not back down. He continued to challenge scenes he felt weakened the message. He argued that Archie needed to be exposed, corrected, and defeated clearly every time. He wanted clarity. He wanted consequences. Anything less felt irresponsible. O'Connor pushed back hard. He believed Archie's power came from recognition, not humiliation. He believed audiences saw themselves, their neighbors, their families in Archie. Strip that away, and the character became a cartoon, safe, distant, and easily dismissed. After one particularly tense rehearsal, Reiner questioned O'Connor's delivery yet again. O'Connor stopped the run-through mid-scene. He did not raise his voice. He did not argue. He simply looked toward Lear and said nothing. The silence stretched. Cameras rolled. Crew stood still. Lear later admitted that moment forced him to step in. O'Connor had drawn a line without saying a word, and everyone in the room understood exactly where it was. Power, praise, and public perception. What deepened the hostility was not just what happened on set, but what happened off it. The conflict did not end when the cameras stopped rolling. It followed O'Connor home. It followed him into reviews, headlines, and cultural conversations he could not control. Critics loved Michael Stivic. They praised his certainty, his clarity, his moral confidence. Reviews described him as the voice of reason, the embodiment of progress confronting ignorance. Archie Bunker, by contrast, was framed as the obstacle, the thing standing in the way. The problem to be corrected, exposed, and ultimately dismissed. Carroll O'Connor read those reviews. He didn't skim them. He absorbed them. To him, Rob Reiner was not just winning arguments on screen. He was winning them culturally. The applause extended beyond the studio audience. It echoed through newspapers, magazines, and critical praise. And O'Connor felt the cost of that victory was his character's humanity. He believed Reiner was being rewarded for moral certainty, while Archie was being reduced to a symbol. No longer a man to be examined, but an idea to be defeated. The applause felt unbalanced. The praise felt ideological. What had begun as performance now felt like a referendum. Years later, O'Connor summarized his resentment in one of his most quoted statements. Rob always thought he was smarter than everyone else. It was not said lightly. It was not a joke. It was a diagnosis. In O'Connor's mind, Reiner did not respect the craft. He used it. He bent it toward judgment rather than understanding. And O'Connor found that unforgivable. Success did not heal the wound. As the show continued its historic run, the anger did not dissipate. It calcified. What began as tension hardened into routine. Not explosive, not chaotic, permanent. The audience laughed harder. The network celebrated louder. Ratings climbed. Awards followed. And behind the success, the hostility remained untouched. The two men walked onto the same set every day, knowing they despised each other. Not in theory, not privately, in full awareness. They stood inches apart under studio lights, delivering lines that cut because they were sharpened by real resentment. The irony was cruel. The father and son-in-law clashes felt dangerous because they were. The pauses lingered because no one rushed them. The anger carried weight because it was not written. It was lived. The audience responded to something authentic without ever being told what it was. When All in the Family finally ended in 1979, many inside CBS quietly assumed the hostility would dissolve with distance. Without rehearsals, without scripts, without weekly proximity. Time, they believed, would soften what success never did. It didn't. The conflict didn't end. It simply lost its audience. After the cameras stopped, Carroll O'Connor moved directly into Archie Bunker's place, carrying the character forward but leaving Reiner behind. Off camera, the shift was visible. He was noticeably lighter, more relaxed. The constant tension no longer followed him onto the set. Gene Stapleton later remarked privately that the weight seemed to lift almost immediately, as if something unresolved had finally been removed from the room. Yet whenever Rob Reiner's name surfaced, O'Connor's tone hardened without hesitation. There was no reflection, no softening. The resentment had not faded. It had settled. By the early 1980s, the two men occupied entirely different Hollywood worlds. O'Connor immersed himself in dramatic television, deliberately distancing himself from satire and cultural commentary. In 1988, he reinvented his public image with In the Heat of the Night, proving his range extended far beyond comedy and controversy. Reiner was reinventing himself too, not as an actor, but as a director. He earned industry admiration with This Is Spinal Tap and Stand By Me, projects defined by empathy, perspective, and emotional precision. Their paths no longer crossed. Their worlds no longer overlapped. The bitterness, however, remained, untouched by success, distance, or time. Silence as a final position. In interviews throughout the 1980s and 1990s, O'Connor refused to soften history. He rejected the idea that their feud was exaggerated. He dismissed the phrase creative differences, insisting it minimized what he felt was sustained personal disrespect. Reiner remained almost entirely silent. He did not challenge O'Connor's version of events. He did not attempt reconciliation. He did not explain himself publicly. Those close to Reiner described his stance as deliberate. He had moved on professionally and emotionally. Silence was not avoidance. It was distance. They never shared a stage again. They never acknowledged each other's success. The conflict froze in place. Then that was not an ending. When Carroll O'Connor died on June 21, 2001, at the age of 76, Hollywood paused. Networks replayed All in the Family. Critics revisited Archie Bunker's legacy. Former colleagues spoke about O'Connor's discipline, intelligence, and seriousness. One voice remained restrained. Rob Reiner offered professional respect. Nothing more. No attempt to rewrite the past, and no public reconciliation, and no softening of history. That restraint mattered. By the time of his death, O'Connor had already endured profound personal loss, including the suicide of his son Hugh in 1995. That tragedy reshaped his public life, pushing him toward advocacy and compassion. Yet even then, he never revisited his feelings toward Reiner. The silence had hardened into permanence. The question that remains. In the end, the most unsettling truth is simple. Some conflicts do not resolve, they do not heal, They do not soften with time. They simply outlive the people who carried them. Was Carroll O'Connor defending artistic integrity, or did personal pride turn a professional clash into a lifelong feud? Was Rob Reiner's silence dignity or avoidance? That answer was never given. And the silence became the final word.